Hey guys, Vladis here. I want to talk a little bit about reality. Sometimes reality can be so in your face, almost unreal at times. Sometimes it could be so good to be in it. Other times it could feel like you just want to crawl into a hole and just die there for a second. Reality can be cruel. And being especially in the Ashes of Creation community, reality sometimes is a figment of our imagination because we live in a totally filled copium world. But let me try my best to hit people with a dose of reality when it comes to Phase 3. The reality is, Phase 3 may not be what you expected it to be, at least at the start. Phase 3, while being very system heavy with many changes coming, whether it's the econ update that we're waiting for, whether it's dynamic gridding, whether it's stage 4 nodes, vassalization, I can go on and on. The fact of the matter is, will Phase 3 change the way you play Ashes of Creation on a daily basis? Let's get into it. Now, I want to preface that we're still in this phase pseudo 2.5, as people dubbed it. There's still a lot of systems that are getting overhauled. This is probably the worst the game has been because of the lack of the overhaul of certain systems, especially economy, especially crafting, processing. There's still a lot of growing pains that Ashes is going through, which is quite normal in an alpha state of an MMO that's being built in real time, right? So let's get all that out of the way. But I just want to name a couple of the things that are still on Phase 2's docket of being released that is still not currently in the game yet. So right now we are lacking, of course, stage 4 nodes. We're lacking vassalship, node death, economic election types, the two-handed spear, two-handed mace, two-handed axe, siege vehicles, gems and sockets, gear ascension, profession skill trees, animal husbandry breeding, party gathering, leaderboards, instance housing, story arcs just in general, dynamic world dungeons, NPC ambient behavior. The crux of why I'm making this video is I've heard a lot of people in Discord, I've seen stuff on Reddit, on the forums, just the kind of things that is like Phase 3 is going to be completely different. The game's going to drastically change. And I just want to really set expectation because, again, just trying to be realistic. Your day-to-day gameplay isn't going to really change too much. Even if all of the things that I just mentioned were added today, the only thing that would basically change is now there's going to be story arcs you can basically go on and experience, whether it's better questing, right? Now, we all know that in Phase 3, a big focus for them is actually a huge overhaul, and I'm thinking it's more of a UI overhaul for their current questing system. The questing right now in Ashes of Creation, I think, is quite stale. It's not really too involved. It's not too fun, if I'm just being quite honest with you. I am looking forward to story arcs. Story arcs are what I was really looking forward to in general when this game was being pitched. The fact that you can actually experience story arcs that change the narrative on your server and thus changing the landscape of said node, said biome, said server. That to me is very interesting. But truly, outside of story arcs, your day-to-day gameplay is going to consist of pretty much what you're doing now. Whether that's going out and gathering, whether that's treasure hunting, whether that's going out and grinding at a certain pocket dungeon, going and doing dungeons, whether that's running a caravan, whether that's PvP in some way, shape, or form, that's still pretty much going to be what you're going to be doing at the start of Phase 3. Now, let's actually look at what features are in store for Phase 3. Right? So in Phase 3, we're going to be getting the anvils, which is the new second starting zone. And we will hopefully get a greater part of the turquoise sea. We're also going to be getting 4 new node layouts, level 5 nodes, military and divine election types, atrophy event, policies, node happiness, additional mayoral commissions, additional service buildings. We're also beginning the Pyre, Renkai, Nakua, and then I'm pretty sure the Tolnar is going to come way later, but I'm pretty sure we got already confirmed that at least the first 3 races are going to be at the start of phase 3. We're also going to be getting the summoner archetype, which I believe is going along quite nicely because at least from what I've seen in the data files, there is a lot already done on the summoner as far as its abilities, its passives, and everything like that. Now, at least on the phase 3 docket, it has 20 plus abilities, 10 plus passives, which gives us 30 plus skill nodes per archetype tree. So that is going to be really, really interesting. The other thing that we're going to be getting, and I don't know, and I can't really confirm this, which I'm just going to tell you, I think this is not going to be at the start, which is the secondary archetype specializations, which is actually the true classes. This is going to be for cleric and tank secondary, which means I think, and again, we've tried to get clarification, and I might be wrong in saying this, but the way it reads is secondary archetype specialization for cleric and tank. Now, people can think that this is just for the tank base and the cleric base archetype that we're getting the specializations for. I personally think it's going to be the cleric secondary and tank secondary that you can apply to any of the all 8 classes, basically. So you can have summoner tank, summoner cleric. You're going to have fighter tank, fighter cleric. That's kind of what I believe that particular wording is. We're also going to be getting some more weapons. We'll get in the orb, one-headed axe, one-headed sword pierce. Now, I cannot confirm if these are going to be day 1 of phase 3, but again, it kind of doesn't matter to me. And then let's look at systems. So we have guilds fully functional, which to me means guild storage, guild freeholds, castle sieges, naval, aquatic mounts, underwater combat, instance content, transmog and dying gear system, pets, aerial combat, titles, religion, and auction house. All of these things, I really don't think any of these things are actually going to be at the start of phase 3, personally. Now, let's get into the actual content. What's the content? We have castles, we have Turquoise Sea, which is treasure maps, dynamic events, story, unique story arcs, and dynamic world dungeons. That I don't believe is going to be at the start. We haven't even seen story arcs be a thing in Ashes of Creation right now. Sorry, that was my daughter. And that's the one thing that I'm actually looking forward to. And this is why I'm actually making this particular video, is I think a lot of people in a lot of ways are overhyping phase 3. And I think there's some people that are looking at it and talking in the context of overall phase 3. But then there's certain people that are talking about phase 3 that people are assuming that a lot of these things are going to be at the start of phase 3. So my whole thing is I just want to put in a perspective that everything that you have heard today from me probably won't be day 1, August 4th of phase 3. Now, I'm also going to say something that people might not like. Phase 3 could be delayed yet again. I'm just going to say that. It may not, and I hope to God it may not, but it's definitely a possibility. Now, I will say this, and this is where I'm talking not really to you, viewer. I'm talking to Intrepid Studios, the developers, or even Steven. If any of these things aren't in or not ready August 4th, please delay to a later date. Whether that's vassalization, whether that's the summoner class. I would even prefer if you had just a story arc for the Riverlands. But honestly, I think those two things, personally, in my opinion, which is vassalization and the summoner, those two things, I think, actually really need to be at the start of phase 3. So if those two things are not in a state that you guys are satisfied with, I would truly wait another week, another 2 weeks until that's at a better state for you guys. Because I think because we are wiping, for sure wiping in phase 3, vassalization and locking out of other nodes, that needs to happen as soon as possible. People are getting very used to having every single node at level 3, which is definitely not an actual reality of the game right now. There's also a lot of other growing pains that I think people are going to experience, which is going to be, of course, the gathering side of things because of our tools. Right now, tools, we're leveling way too fast to level 10, and it feels like novice is completely obfuscated. We're waiting for apprentice stuff to make, whether that's our tools. That's really annoying to make because of the buildings and how buildings are done in Ashes of Creation. So I don't know what you guys are going to do on that front, but I would say right now that the amount of experience that it takes to level from level 1 to level 2 might need to be changed. But I really don't know what you guys are going to do on that end, but I just know from a player's perspective, like the novice tier feels completely obfuscated because of how fast we level. And then apprentice is basically where it truly starts. That's bad. So I wish you guys the best at the start of phase 3, and guys, I'm really curious of what you think. Like what new content would you like to see as soon as possible? Now, I would like to say too that I think there's a couple of easy things they can actually do to provide some daily content for players that actually would be really, really good, and I think very easy. Dueling. Intrepid, please, try to prioritize just adding dueling to the game, like a flag dueling system. If not, then put instanced arenas in military nodes. You know what I mean? Like if instance content's going to come, that's like, I think that one of the first bits of instance content that I would do if I were you guys is just make a guy to talk to in a military node and go into an arena and have the arenas be 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, 8v8, you know, whatever you want, right? Whatever sizes you guys want. That will change up a lot of PvPers gameplay, and it would allow people to create tournaments in a very organized way. It would just, that would change the daily gameplay for many, many people currently testing. I also feel, and this is something that I know Zyback has been talking about, and I actually really agree with him, is that I think you guys really truly need to look at corruption. I think corruption is high on purpose. I've been saying this if you've watched me for any length of time, but I think corruption needs to be dialed down to a more realistic launch level so we can actually test that, and also test blight, which means people will be killing and going corrupted and getting blight. And we need to see how that system feels in tandem with getting corrupted. And I don't care if it's maybe taming corruption 1 to where maybe there's a 50% chance you might lose a single item, but maybe there's a 50% chance you lose nothing. And the more blight you get, it increases that percentage chance. And let's say level 2, well, then you 100% will lose 1 item. Like that, to me, I don't think is a bad thing, because still losing 1 item, that, I mean, depending if you're how geared you are, that could really truly hurt depending on what slot that is, right? So I think that will be really, really good. I mean, personally, I would also love to see the bounty hunter system as soon as possible. That was a system that I was really truly looking forward to. But there's still so many things that Ashes of Creation needs to add. There are tons of other moving parts and systems just within the node system. So again, this video was basically provided to you to provide context and reality, at least at the start, that even with all of these other things, like these different weapons, talent trees for professions, another class to play with, your day-to-day content may not change as much as you think it did. Let me know what you guys thought about this video in the comment section. Give me a like if you like this video, like this kind of format. Subscribe for my content if you like more Ashes of Creation content, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care, guys.